Hey guys, today I've got a special guest on the show, and that is Scott Juarez. And I don't know.
And from my end, I got a special guest. I got Chris Vandenberg. We're going to talk about blasters.
That's
actually
awesome.
we're going to talk about the different blasters, the DL44s in the movies, what they were made from, and then we're going to also hit the differences between a Denix, an MGC, and a real Mauser, or Chris's 1-to-1 Mauser replica.
Yes.
We got parts, we got junk.
Yes.
It's actually pretty simple, but for some reason, a lot of people are confused about it.
Yeah, I'm finding that out a lot. One of the biggest questions I get about my steel Mausers, why is it so expensive? You know, the Denix is, well, they don't say Denix because they don't even know the name, but they're wondering why there's such a big price difference. But I think that hopefully today when we're doing this, we can show them the difference between the real, C96 that was used and this terrible casting that, well, I guess it's good for what it is, but it's not a very good 1-to-1 replica. So.
No, it's bigger too. That's one thing that most people don't realize, that the scale is off. It's like Goldilocks. That's like the three bears. You got the Mauser, which is the baby bear, pretty much. Then you got the MGC, which is a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the Denix, which in isolation, you can't really see it until you put them next to each other. And then there is a huge difference. And you don't even see it when it's got all the crap on it. You don't, when it has a scope and all the mountain stuff, you can't, it's hard to see those scale differences when you have all the other stuff kind of masking it. But man, it's a big difference when they're set side by side.
Yeah.
And
I've just pulled up now. I've got two MGCs. I pulled them apart because I was making parts for them back in the day, but just holding it up, just eyeballing it next to the real Mauser, everything on the MGC is bigger, or especially on the barrel area.
Yep.
And it'd be even larger, doing the, it's just way out of proportion.
And I have some photos, I should have pulled those up ahead of time, but I have some photos showing the size differences. I might be able to find that real quick and share the screen. Hold on.
Yeah.
You can, while I'm looking for that, you can tell everybody why the price is so different.
Well, back when you guys, I think this started on the RPF, and I've been doing this. I've been, piddling around with these making replicas for about 5 years now, and I saw where there was a thread, and everybody was discussing it, and I said, oh, well, maybe that's something I should do. How hard could it be? Well, I honestly don't know. I don't know if you can see this really well. See the real one here. I don't go on there, but this thing has so many tapers, angles, weird contours, blends. I don't know how people did this by hand 100 years ago. I really don't. It'd have been a terrible amount of hand work. What I did, and to get it going, I saw where everybody was. Some other machinists had talked about it and talked about the cost. I had it laser scanned, and if you go to my blog, you can see where I laser scan all the old replicas. Anything vintage that I find, to try to make it as accurate as possible. But after I got the geometry from laser scanning it, the scope of the work really, really hit home, because this was not an easy machining project. That lower alone is like 9 operations on a CNC mill. Deep holes, square holes, the pockets on it were just, it's some tough machining. Just the fixturing that I had to build for it, but
I don't think a lot of people understand about fixtures. Like you have to custom machine a part. Yep. Just to hold or have it possible to machine the part you want to make.
Right.
So to make that part, you have to have something to hold the material in ways that allows you to machine all those different crevices and stuff like that. And I don't think people get that. So there's a whole lot of engineering just to go into making a part to make the part.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
ridiculous.
You know, this lower for the prop starts out as a piece of steel, you know, 1 inch thick, approximately 6 by 6, and the first op is just putting a few holes in it.
Yeah.
And from there on, I've got fixtures that those have to bolt down in every flip, you know, you have to do. And you know, it's time consuming just, you know, figuring that out. I don't know, there's probably 1,000 hours, you know, from the time I got the geometry from the laser scan and those guys to converting it, put it in master cam and start breaking down all the operations. And what's crazy about this, a lot of the tools are not off the shelf. You know, these contour tools that are used, especially, I hope you can see this, because
Yeah, I can see
this is one of the, like right here, right in this area right here.
Yeah.
There's a blend right there that happens, and a bunch of radiuses that have to blend together. There's 3 different custom tools that do that, and they all have to lead into each other, lead out. It's really nuts how that had to be done to copy what the real one did.
Yeah.
And the only
There's a
thing
real one right here.
Yeah.
And of course, just for all the gun people who might be flipping out, it is empty. But yeah, you can see that there's some hand finishing on these, but all of these radiuses are consistent between each one, even though the finishing is different because it's done by hand. It's just really, really insane.
Oh, that's nice.
How they made these 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, before CNC, they may have had pin routers and things like that, you know, something to repeat the process, but it was
I think they had mills that followed patterns, but even then there'd have had to been a lot of hand polishing and
oh yeah,
filing to make.
That's why all these are hand fit. Like some of the parts from one don't fit the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like that with the scopes too. It's insane.
I don't know about yours. See if you can see can you see the machining, the tool mark?
Yeah, you can see the tool marks. Yeah.
And I think that's probably, I've seen them pretty consistently in every Mauser I've seen. And that was some work. Just, you can see them in this.
Yeah.
I actually copied them in the replica too.
Which is funny because modern machines will cut so clean that to make that, you
had to make a bad tool path. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because those old ones, they must have been running that mill real slow.
Yeah, the feeds and speeds would do that. And
yeah,
you know, they were cutting some really hard steel. So, you know, it's probably just trying to do them too fast, probably.
Yeah, because well, you can see it definitely between the pre-war production ones and the wartime. The wartime ones were way uglier, just not as nice looking at all, because they were probably just get them out there.
Yeah, pumping them out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but you know,
whereas and then you're talking about the price difference. MGC is expensive because it's no longer made and it's rare.
It's still a really cool replica. And
it's a good replica. Yeah,
it is, and it's
mechanically
it's superior to the Denix by far.
Yeah, mechanically it's like a real Mauser with some, you know, with some small changes to make it repeatable.
I've got mine apart right now, this MGC, and this one's in pretty rough shape. But you know, I love how at least they did the trigger block area.
It's like a complete yeah, it's like a Mauser. Oh,
yeah, you can pull it out.
So let me see if I can share this screen with you and take a look at this. All right. See if you can tell me if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So here's a good representation of the size differences. You got your real Mauser. Let me pull this up in Photoshop. So you got your real Mauser on the bottom, then you got your MGC, and then your Denix on the top. it's really clear. You can see the size differences here when they're laid out like this.
Yeah, big time.
It just, and you can see the construction differences and stuff like that. But here's a couple more pictures of the lower frames.
Yeah, that's good. It's not.
This is, they're fairly close here, but you can see that how they deviate quite a bit as well. And the scale on the everything is just a little bit different.
Well, you know, the MGC, at least their site, you know, they did a pretty good job, not perfect, but a pretty good job of doing the gradient or the scale, you know, the
They
numbers
did.
on top of it. The Denix has just got lumps and big old giant numbers. They missed that. They missed that a good bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's why that's quite a difference. I mean, if you can just see the detail difference right there. And the Denix is super mass produced, just a cast thing.
and castings, and the castings are you're always going to have a little bit of difference because you've got to have draft and a casting sort of release from a mold. So they're always going to have a few angles on the edges that are going to be weird. But you know, I don't. Denix missed that one by a lot. I don't know what they were copying on that, you know, because obviously MGC was able to make a better casting.
Right.
It is doable. And you know, that picture you just showed also, you know, I love, at least on the MGC, which is really nice. They've got the engraving, you know, on the top of the barrel.
But they didn't all have that.
Really?
No, a lot of them didn't. Some of them just, in fact, I have one right here. This one has none.
Wow.
No stamps. But there is one here. There's a Waffen stamp back here.
Right.
Whereas this MGC has it. You can see it right there in the light.
Yeah, you can see it.
But, and some of them had the big Maus 1930 Mauser stamp that goes right there.
Yeah, the Mauser bound.
Some of them had those and some of them didn't. Some of them were just flat, like this one was flat until I milled it, but you can still see there's no logo there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they just vary. Even the MGCs vary. So you get and you got the chrome and the gold ones, which, by the way, folks, just
I know what he's gonna say.
Steer clear. That it's a nightmare. You can paint it maybe, but that it doesn't hold paint very well. And to deplate it, I've heard of people melting them and destroying them trying to deplate it.
Yeah,
I've sandblasted one, media blasted a whole one, and it took a good 4 hours of media blasting to get every little part. It sucked.
yeah.
Because you don't want to blast it so hard that you lose all the detail, but you got to blast it with something hard enough to get rid of that plating. So it's kind of like you're dancing a fine line.
I think somebody found a showcase full of those gold ones a year or two ago, is why they kind of flooded out all of a sudden, because yeah, those are a pain in the butt.
Yeah, just steer clear. And they're so expensive. Just get one of Chris's steel ones. Please.
What's an MGC? What are you seeing them going for now?
Between 500 and 900.
That's kind of what I'm seeing too. When you see them, I'm not seeing them like I was a few years ago anyway.
Yeah, they're expensive.
And looks like you've got several of them there.
I got a couple, and then they get brittle too. Whatever alloy I've had them come where pieces of the locking frame will just shatter. And there's no replacement parts for any of that stuff, man. If it breaks, you're screwed.
Well, the two that I have, they're in pieces over here, and I probably ought to reassemble them and see if anybody wants them, because I'm never going to use them probably, but I'm try to get those back and handled. So. Yeah,
I've had to remake a few small parts for the insides of those, and just try to machine them from scratch out of aluminum, because that stuff breaks, which is no good.
Denix over here. I actually don't have a regular Denix. I was going to show too on the MGC another really cool thing. At least they got, they tried to do from like the real Mauser, and here's the MGC. At least they got the mag plate.
Yeah, they got a mag plate and a
It's
spring and everything.
removable. This one, they're pretty hard to take off on the real Mauser. But now I did for a while try what the community calls accurizing Adenics.
Yeah.
I started cutting out the bottom and then made a plate to go over it. But I quit doing that probably about a year ago when I come out with the steel Mauser and now the aluminum Mauser, because I literally cannot put this in the machine, hold it, and mill the same pocket twice.
Because there's the variances
that far off. I mean,
Yeah.
it can be off as much as 30 or 40 thousandths in thickness. It's crazy. And I just end up throwing them in the trash can after that. That's enough of that. That's why those were about $500 on the websites, because you're paying for the ones I scrap. So,
wow.
Well,
Wouldn't it be nice if there was a reliably cast cheap version of your steel Mauser that everybody could get? That'd be pretty cool, huh?
Still working on that. It's not easy. Those molds they're going to be very expensive, which I don't mind doing, but just finding the right person, because that's going to be probably a $150,000 mold, and I'm going to have to do the upper and lower. So, that's going to be some big money. I mean, Denics, for what they do, those molds they're using are very expensive.
Oh yeah.
To make a cheap part, you've got to spend a lot of money up front, which I'm still working on that. I hope one day,
but that's the scales of economy working too. Why people don't understand why things are expensive and cheap, because Denics, yeah, they've spent a shit ton of money on their molds. Pardon my French, but they mass produce like
yes,
crazy, and then that's how they can get it out there for $120.
Yeah. Well, what you sacrifice in price, your quality. You don't get both. You don't get price, and you don't get quality. You get one or the other. That's just the way it is. But doing the steel one that I've done, I've seen some of your work and some of the other builders out there. You guys are bluing these things, to where they look like the real thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it can't be beat, and it beats doing a real one, because there's a whole side of it where, yes, it's a piece of history. You're altering it forever. Like my two here, they're completely 100% altered. They can't be anything else now. But at the same time, nobody was buying it to do anything else with, so it's mine. I can do whatever I want.
Well,
but,
the one I have, you talked to me about making this one or using this one, live fire, but when I scanned this, the barrel is actually got a 20-degree or 30, I can't remember now, but a 30-degree bend in it. Huh. And the frame is actually the whole lower's twisted. And these things are old and they've been used a lot and thrown around or whatever they've gone through. So I'm not sure I don't even want to shoot this. And from looking at it, you can't tell that it's damaged or bent. You can't. But when I laser scanned the thing and we were trying to do stuff, you could see it. So I had to correct that, in the geometry before I machined this.
That's interesting.
That was funny. That took us a while to pick up while some things were working out in the tool path. So we realized that things had, it was twisted.
Yeah, you never know what this old steel goes through, especially now it's all fatigued and stuff. But
this one other thing we ought to mention too, of many, is how these two guns or these two replicas go together. I don't have another here. This one.
Well, I want to touch on one more thing real quick before we move on to a different subject: the costs.
Yeah.
Tell people, I understand, but maybe other people won't understand. If the steel Mauser is expensive to produce because it's hard to make, why is the aluminum one less expensive?
Well,
I know the answer, but other people don't.
I know, and I know Scott used to crucify me for even doing an aluminum one, but there are those out there. Number one, it's weight and time to machine it. Literally, the aluminum one's about a third of the time for me to machine it. You know, just being on the CNC machines, because you know it's just faster.
Yeah, you can cut through the material quicker, and it doesn't need
Absolutely. Don't
tooling.
go through as many tools, you know, because I'm having to use carbide tools on everything, but you know, they last pretty much forever in the aluminum, and you know, you're changing them every 20, 30 parts when you're doing the steel one. You know, you've got a lot more breakage and things. But yeah, I mean, this pocket, and if you're a machinist out there, you'll get this. A lot of people don't understand, but those are deep through holes, and tools that stick out a long ways, they'll flex on you.
Yeah,
You know, especially when you're doing harder stuff, you end up having to machine them slower. You
yeah,
know, it takes its toll on stuff. And there's a bunch of, if you ever get one of these that I've done, you'll see a lot of work down inside of it, because you know, we did a lot of stuff to make the inside, you know, act like the real one.
yeah.
Know? It's not 1-to-1 with the real one. You know, obviously you can't
Internally, no. Internally, no. Yeah.
Yes, it's changed enough to where it's not ever going to be a firearm. So, but it gives you the outward and you know the feel for it, and we were able to create a trigger neck that actually you can pull the trigger on.
Well, and the steel composition is different too from a real one. Yeah, I don't think the steel is more mild. It wouldn't be able to handle those kind of pressures anyway.
Yeah, this is cold rolled. This is common.
That's what I think a lot of people misunderstand. Like gun steels, they're special steels formulated and heat treated to take pressures, you know, things like that.
Which,
so,
you know, that being said, you go back to the day, they're actually using, you know, those alloys to make these. That made their machining it even harder to do. So, you know, hey, my hat's off to them. They were those.
What's even crazier is when you think about it, those are dudes sitting around with slide rules and compasses making this.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the benefit of slow motion cameras to see what's happening mechanically. You know,
big draftsman tables. You had to draw it out. Might even have made it in wood first, you know, to make sure things fit. But it was a long process.
Yeah.
You know, we had a lot of tools to make it easier to copy it. But, you know, there again, we're just copying somebody else's work.
Yeah.
You know, these guys had to actually invent it. You know, there's ground up blank sheet of paper. So,
yeah. It's crazy to think about.
I collect real guns, and I'm still blown away at this era of pistols. You know, at the same time you had Luger and even the Bergman. You know, all these guys kind of at the same time, and they're innovating. There's nothing to go from. So they're totally different concepts in the way the firearms work, and you know they still blow me away. They're still intricate. They're still extremely difficult to make, even by today's standards. You know,
very true. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm sorry. Let's segue back to where you were going.
Oh, you know, the one thing I wanted to talk about too is how, you know, these things go together, since we're talking about the Denix, you know, versus the other two. You know, the way the upper goes onto the lower.
Yep.
This thing just, you know, it sets on here and gets a screw through it, and two pins that fall out on you all the time. You know, then you've got to hide all that stuff when you're making your replica too, or try to. But yeah, this front area on the Denix is just, you know, looks nothing like the real stuff. So when you go to the MGC, they did it like the real one.
It goes together exactly like a real one.
Yeah, dovetail.
Yep. That's a fantastic job. And their castings, whatever the casting, you know, technology there, it's a sharp casting.
Yeah. There's a lot of detail in it. Their molds must have been, they had some expensive molds, because those are clean lines on it. Whereas if you look at the Denix, you've got a lot of soft detail, if there is any detail in it. You know, they really rounded everything off. And that makes it faster for them to pour it and get it in and out of the molds. I know why they did it. They did it for, you know, this thing's meant to be sitting on somebody's wall to be kind of like a C96. It's not, you know.
Yeah.
Next thing I already talked about how the mag door comes on and off is the same. The grips, I've got some grips here too. I've actually started and all of these will start coming out with walnut grips here soon. I know this one I had a set of plastic grips, kind of like the MGC has done for years. But here soon, this will actually come with the wood grips too, because the aluminum one is coming out with them. It doesn't have plastic grips at all. It's not even an option. It comes with the wood grips.
That's good.
So
Yeah, it's a worthwhile upgrade for anybody who doesn't already have the wood grips. Yeah, it makes a world of difference in feel, because even those are scanned from your original grips.
yes.
And they fit these perfectly.
Yeah.
And like all the other original Mausers, the original Mausers are all different.
Yeah.
The frames are pretty much the same, but the hand finishing on them made them different.
Yeah.
And then no two grips fit one perfectly. They're numbered for a reason.
That's right. And I've had a lot of builders over the last year or two that will say, "Hey, I found a set of $30 Mauser grips on eBay." And I go, "Well, I'm so sorry you wasted your money, because I've never found a single Mauser those fit on. Period.
No,
Never."
And even the old ones, they some of them fit kind of, but the contours aren't the same, and they just, or some of them have overhang and some of them don't. Some of them don't have the little curves at the bottom of where your thumb and your web of your hand goes are different. They're all different. Now I got real lucky and found these stem bridge grips. I don't know if I showed you these.
Oh, you have real ones?
These are original Mauser grips that somebody in the past, within the last 100 years, checkered them just like the stem bridge grips. Wow. However, the thumb relief is a little bit different. It's bigger. See how, but the rest, but the checkering the same. You can see the cuts into the brass. Escutcheons is the same.
Escutcheons.
Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, but
yeah, you can see I actually make a reproduction set. So if you
yours are perfect to the prop. These are not, but these are real. So I wanted to use them.
Man, I love that color of those grips.
Yeah.
You did a lot of work to darken them up.
No, that's the original. That's 100-year-old.
Really?
Yeah. Wait. Yeah, I don't have. I had some. Usually,
in case
all the
you're
stuff
not
I
familiar with this in the bunker scene, the stem bridge. This is one of the most used Han Solo blasters on film, right?
Yes. So that's a good segue. Let's talk about that. What's used in the films? There's the stem bridge is your #1 stormtrooper killer, man. Yeah. That out of all the blasters, Han Solo or DL44 blasters in the movies, the stem bridge gets the most action and the most screen time out of all of them,
and the least amount of attention. I think. I think maybe the grips kind of inhibited that for years. That's why I did them. People just, you can't find those grips. I've never. No. You've got the only set that I've ever seen that were on a.
Same here, and I just lucked out. I can't remember. I think I found them on eBay or Gunbroker. I'm not sure. I just happened to search for Mauser grips one day, and I saw them. I was like, "Oh my god!" And I just bought them right away.
Yeah, because that'd been a very rare find.
Yeah, and then, but see, people even do the MGC one. I think because it's an MGC, and because all of the promo photos of the Return of the Jedi prop were this, and they made, because they had, I can't remember now, 3 or 4 of these NGC versions that were almost identical. There are little differences between them, but it's similar to the stem bridge, but because the proportions look different, because real Mauser versus MGC.
Yeah, I love it. It became one of my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
I tell people about it all the time, and they look at me funny, but
they just, it gets glossed over all the time. And then the other one, the MGC one that people seem to want to replicate all the time is the Hoth one,
Yeah.
which has like one of the least amount of screen times.
Yeah.
And yeah, it shoots a droid, but you barely see it. It was used in one scene, and that's it. That's the only time it was ever on screen.
Yeah.
But Lucasfilm made toys and like the master replicas were loosely based on this with the Greeblies and stuff, because that was the only reference people had. So that's what's proliferated out there. And then people think that this is the Empire Strikes Back one, which is this one just barely was ever seen with the goofy Sharpie marks up here.
Yeah, because those are not even knurls. Those you
No,
have to paint those on, don't you?
That's the funny thing about it is people don't usually realize that, but it's aluminum. You can see it. You and I are lucky to have pretty good reference photos that we can't share, but you can see in the photos that this is aluminum.
Here's one of my aluminum ones done like that. So.
Yeah, this is your aluminum one too. And
okay.
then
I haven't painted it on there.
They painted the whole thing black with the flash hider on there. And then someone goes, you got to paint it silver. So they painted silver paint over the black.
Yep.
And then they're like, well, all the others are knurled. So I guess someone just sat there with a Sharpie and did this or something. Because that's exactly what it looks like. It's just so ridiculous. But that's it. This one is probably the most accurate one I have in the house because I have the best reference of the original prop.
Yes, you do.
So this one looks like the actual prop looks today. Minus a couple flakes of stuff missing up here. But yeah, that's so the stem bridge that gets the most on time screen and action gets the least amount of love, and then the one that gets one of the ones that has the least amount of screen time gets the most amount of love a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, that happens, I guess that's probably the ones that early on people were copying the most, and they just see it. I actually, when I first started doing DL44s and didn't realize there's a zillion different variants of it, I made some of the Masters replica, which I own them all. I think you can see them in here, but I own all those DL44s from that. And I made those Greeblies, and people still buy them. They still want them to make them like the Masters replica. So I just, whatever, Well,
you can't really blame anybody because they just don't know, unfortunately. And the information gets perpetuated. Someone who doesn't really know any better will tell someone else, and they'll take it as the gospel, and then it'll get passed along. It's like playing telephone pretty much.
Yeah.
But
and I do see where, and this happens more often than not, that people are kind of doing that version of the blaster or whatever they pick, but they're idealizing it.
Yeah.
They make it to where they're whatever they perceive it should have been.
Yeah.
And I see that happening a lot.
Well, that's fine. That's a different way to go. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's funny when you see it hurts my OCD when people say this is accurate, and you're like, no, it's not. It's really not.
Yeah, well, you get there's that fine line with screaming out that this is the most accurate prop, screen accurate. So we always keep discovering something else.
And that's the thing. It's 40 years later, information is still coming out. There's still photos like you and I have photos that we're under an agreement to not share, but we can see exactly what it is. So it's kind of frustrating because if the information was just out there, then it would just, everybody would know. But all you have to take our word for it because we're not allowed to do anything with it.
Or you got to hold back and not show it.
Yeah.
So that's just, hey, that's something new to discover in the future, and a lot of that stuff will hit the market. And it'd be nice if when they're on film or they're filming this stuff, that the actor would do a nice slow shot, where they're shooting it, where we can, see both
every angle
here, but they don't do that. It's always blurry.
Yeah. Well, that's just it's just a part of the piece to tell the story, basically. But
Yeah.
for us nerds, you know,
Yeah.
it's, well, which goes into which. Let's talk about which blasters were made of what.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the MGCs, the replicas, there weren't very many of them. The Return of the Jedi had the most, and that was the Han. And they just had, and we can't even really tell which ones were which. Some of them you can, but there were so many that, you know, they were either in a holster or they were used in stunt shots or something like that. But most of the stuff with Harrison Ford was the stem bridge, the real Mauser.
Right.
Or let's say most of the stuff that was shot in California where they were shooting blanks was the stem bridge.
Yeah, I think I've heard it said, I'm not sure about this. They said that he likes the real feel of it rather than the plastic stuff.
Yeah, he wanted something to react to.
Yeah.
Whereas in any place that went overseas didn't have a live fire. The England did because they had the armorer there for the first movie and the second movie, but the stem bridge didn't go overseas to be filmed with. They had MGCs. But and then there's casts too. There's resin casts.
Right.
There was a lot of those.
Yeah, Dagobah.
Yep.
What's that other one? There's another the Muppet.
The Muppet, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is basically the same thing, but those are casts from the A New Hope that were, you know, just the basic gun, and then they put different mounts. They put like a Return of the Jedi style mount.
Yeah. And
then the Merson, which is basically this with just different Greeblies. It's a cast of this with Greeblies.
Yeah.
Which I think you're the only one who does the replica of that.
Well, you know, I for so long everybody kept asking me about those Greeblies, and actually Chris Trevis, Parts of Star Wars, which, by the way, if you haven't gone to that website, it's an awesome thing to go see, because all the found parts, you know, there's a lot of information there.
Yeah. I don't know how they find some of that stuff, man.
He must work there. He must have an in somehow. I don't know, but it is when you start realizing, you know, how much information. How long's that site been around? You know,
long time. The old site is still, I think it's still up, but it's been there a while.
Yeah, because I mean, it's amazing. All the information he's collected for several decades at least, you know, for found parts. But he was instrumental, and he's the only one. The little lights on the side, well, they're not lights, the little buttons or something. And the other Greeblies, he's actually found them, you know, and he was actually gracious enough to send them to me and entrust me with them. So I copied them, and you know, and then I made, you know, copies of those and figured the rest of it out, you know, with the Reed model cylinders, having to slice those in half, and the plug was the main thing. I've never known anybody else to have that little whatever MIDI plug or whatever it is, the real one. There can't be too many of those in the world.
I got a real one somewhere. Somewhere in my stuff of random miscellaneous expensive old junk.
Yeah,
I have a real plug someplace.
That's what it's in a box back here somewhere.
Yeah.
Luckily I got that and made a really nice replica of it. Even has the little pins in the front of it. But you know, even then, that's kind of a tough little build. You've got to be able to, if you get a Denix or some other replica, you're gonna have to cut the barrel down to get that bull barrel on, and because it's a different bull barrel than the A&H. You know, it's a different thing.
It's longer.
It's longer, yeah. And actually the flash hider, I guess, you know, I use the MG81 flash hider that, you know, that I have, that I copied to go on it, because I'm obviously making an idealized kit. But you know, the real one, that's just solid. It's like a solid piece of plastic or casting. So
yeah, the casts usually have compromises. Anything you're making a replica of that's a cast one, it's not going to be accurate until you have it all filled up, you know.
Right.
But
and Chris wants me to still do that. he was a little disappointed that I didn't just make a flash hider. But I don't even know how to machine all those defects in it, because that flash hider is pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Try to do something kind of like it, but I might get back to that eventually for all the purists out there to make something a little closer. So
Just dimples instead of holes.
yeah, because I guess air bubbles and things make all those dimples, either they show a little bit or they go a little deeper. It's kind of a mess.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't want to tackle that.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to machine defects, you have to draw up whatever, whatever mess up somebody made in it. So I'd usually, when I do the replicas, I make the idealized perfect version. And then from there, the builder can either use it that way or they can damage it the same way the real prop is, and which you're very good at, by the way.
Yeah.
The scope mounts and things like that, putting flats on them, or grinding edges off or dents. I mean, that stuff needs to be done. People get really good at that.
Yeah. But so which ones are MGCs? Let's go over which ones are MGCs in the movies. So in the first movie, the only MGC is the Greedo killer,
right?
Which you see for like 10 seconds in a close-up. That's it.
Yep.
And it even has different scope mounts than the only post-production pictures of it, which we were talking about this the other day, but a lot of people don't realize it, that it had completely different scope mounts. Let me grab my Greedo killer. I forgot to pull this one down.
Yeah, if there wasn't those promo shots, we wouldn't really have any good reference on it, because I think the screenshots are really dark, aren't they?
Yeah, you can barely see it in the movie.
Yeah.
But you can see that these are the type of mounts in the movie, barely, but mine are not correct because they're a little bit, these are low rise. The ones in the movie were higher rise, where the seam where these metal clips come in just sits right above those wheels.
Yeah, well, every once in a while somebody will find those on eBay, or they'll pop up on a rifle. Kind of sucks, you have to buy a whole rifle and scope just to get those mounts, but it's literally what you have to do.
And those post-production mounts, there was one here, and then there was one floating out here in space, not touching anything.
Yeah.
And literally not touching anything.
Yeah, they had more of a triangular shape to them.
Yep. Do I have one of those? No. I have one of those somewhere. But yeah. So, and a lot of people build this blaster where you just don't see it in the movie.
Yeah.
You barely see it.
Yeah, but the flash hider, I really like the flash hider on that. That has a lot of history behind it. Just the grease gun.
It's very ray gun, like like Buck Rogers kind of ray gun style looking.
I had a lot of fun.
I like it personally. It's just a cool variant, but it's funny how a lot of people will strive to build this one when you don't even see it really. Show
people the little wing nut on the side of that flash hider.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? That right there, you cannot buy those. Okay. I had to cut that out and make a mold or a fixture to bend that into shape. I don't know if you can see it real good. It's like a folded and bent up wing nut. And that was probably something really cheap to do back then, but it don't exist now. But I had a lot of fun reproducing that one.
Hard to make now. I know Aaron made them out of aluminum, had those little wings welded on.
Yep.
And they weren't, it wasn't very
mine out of steel. I tried to do it with aluminum and bend them exactly like they are.
Just
break. So I did them in steel to where I could actually form them, and they're almost in.
I think I have one of yours. I have one of yours. Right here.
Yeah. There you go. I even got the engravings on the sides and everything too.
Yep. Even the weld.
Yeah, there again, trying to weld mess ups and icky looking stuff on things. That was welded cone, and we did little end mills back and forth to make
Yeah.
it look like a welding scene.
The thing that I like about yours is that this is size to a barrel, whereas the real one's huge. You have to
Yeah.
make some kind of adapter to use a real one.
Yeah, you do. You have to make a sleeve. Now, I will tell you that I'm making a new version of it because the real Mauser, it doesn't fit. You have to have a little sleeve. So
It's
if
smaller.
if you're on the website and you see the steel ones, if you go to Blaster Factory and you buy a Greedo Killer, and I think those things are $700, $800, $900. It depends on what features you get on them. There's a range, but I'll actually have a little sleeve, and that flash hider will be mounted on it because that flash hider is made to go on a Denix, which has a huge barrel.
Yeah.
So if you buy this, I already pre-size it so you don't have to mess with it.
Yeah. So that's the first movie. That's the only MGC you see there. And then the only other one you see, of course, is the most iconic one out of all of them. And it was a real Mauser, but it was a funky, modified one with this bull barrel, which is left over from other two movies that it was used before it was used in Star Wars. And so I don't even know why it had that, other than maybe they just made it for those other two movies and thought it looked cool. I'm not sure.
Do you think that barrel was, how we're cutting the front of the barrel down, which, I stole that idea from you, how you cut the front down to slide that over it. Do you think they cut that one down? Do you think that
you can see it
off?
Yeah, I'll show you a picture of it here. Let me we'll show everybody. Let me just get to the folder.
Yeah, because we not doing real firearms, we're able to cheat that, but on the MG on doing a Denix, I actually make a bull barrel that's cut out enough to just slip over the front tapers. And I did that, so it just slide over that. It's not totally, screen accurate, but for builders that don't have, a lathe at home or the ability to do some heavy cutting, they can still, do a Denix build if they wanted to.
Okay, here is the folder. Let me come in here and share it. Where are we at? Okay. All right. See that?
Yes. Yeah.
This is not the hot Star Wars lower, but if you look right up here, you can see that it is the Star Wars upper, because the serial number and the bull barrel match exactly.
Yeah.
2813. Serial numbers right there. Everything matches. Now this is from the Naked Runner. This is from the whatchamacallit, the Frank Sinatra movie. And there it is. There's that upper.
Yes.
That's how long it is. It's short. And they had another barrel here that threaded into this one. And he does that on screen.
Very cool picture.
So you can see here, he picks it up. And you can see those threads right down here at this muzzle opening. I don't know if that's coming through on your screen.
Oh, it's coming through good.
Yeah, so you can see the threads where that barrel will thread in. I don't think they show the hole. They just show, and they show him kind of screwing it in, but it's not really seen. But that's the upper. That's the Star Wars upper right there. That's a clear shot. That's a pretty sharp shot of it right there.
Yeah, and look at the grips too. Those are the same grips. The walnut grips.
Yeah, they're similar, but the whole lower is different.
Yeah.
You can tell by the milling marks and stuff like that. Let's see if I can get this a little bit bigger here. It has a big shelf mill mark right here.
Yeah.
They cut deep here and they cut deep here. So that's completely different. So a lot of people theorize that the mystery disc came from something like this, but Bapti has shown that they typically weld, drill, tap, and weld this stuff on here, and so there's no way that this is not the same lower. You can tell just by these witness marks here in the machining, but still pretty neat. That upper got passed around. Here's a better shot of those mill marks.
Yeah. Wow. There's a different too.
It's like a fingerprint.
Yeah.
And you can see that on the Star Wars one. Here it is before it got painted. None of that stuff is there. The bigger one. There it is. See, none of that stuff is there.
Yeah.
The grips have pretty distinct cuts in them, damaged areas as well, to kind of like a fingerprint. But there's that upper.
Yep.
2813.
Yeah, that was fun. Let's see this one. This is an older upper. I don't have one over here. The newer uppers I have actually have that number in them too.
Yep. And they came out perfect, because I know we talked about the phone that we were going over like tiny placement of all that stuff, because doing it by hand, it's impossible to get it correct. It's impossible.
I was gonna see if I had I didn't. There's obviously not the serial number on the longer barrel one. It's on the bull barrel one. I don't know if that's one of those over here or not. This is one of my aluminum heroes, and can't really see it on here. But it comes on the steel one though. I don't have one of those. I don't have one of those upper receivers here right now though. Nope. But we spent a long time that day when I was on that machine trying to get that number scaled right. That was tough.
Even the font,
that was sitting at a weird, funky angle.
Yeah. Because doing it by hand it's impossible to get it correct. It's just not. Yeah.
Well, getting off subject, you just mentioned that. I know you probably have, these old Mauser stamps.
I don't have those. I have just numbers and the proofs.
Yeah, the proofs.
Yeah.
I don't know where I found these a zillion years ago, but they do wear out, and I've heard a lot of people, why don't you go ahead and put them in there? I said, well, there's things that are not seen, on the blasters in the movie that would have been on the real, our world gun, so, I kind of leave that stuff to the builders like, you and Garrett and a lot of other people who have those stamps for you to do as for your customers if they want to. And they always, I hear it all the time, say, oh man, they charge so much to do that. I said, well, they deserve it, because all you have to do is strike one time wrong and you've scrapped the part.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to do.
It sucks. And if you don't hit it hard enough, you can't replace that. You can't put it back in the exact same spot and then strike it again. Or if you bounce, you get a double strike.
Yep.
It's hard, guys. It's no fun. That's why
it's not. And that's why the logo on the side, I actually engraved it while this thing's being machined in.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Machine, because that stamp, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
These other stamps, sometimes you can get it in a vise and have somewhere to, you run into this, it's hard to clamp on anything straight and level that you can hit it hard enough without the thing moving.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, is to hold the stupid thing.
Yeah.
Still
to hit it hard,
because you have to hit it hard, and then it's not like a block.
Yeah.
It's this weird shape. It's got like contours and stuff all over. There's no easy way to hold that thing. It's a crapshoot each time.
And I've got an anvil back here, where something solid when I strike fixtures and stuff to put markings in. And if I could do that, but it never works out. You've always got, and you can't see it. That's another thing. It's like the top trying to do, let's see, hold it up here. We see it, trying to do that engraving. You've got this stamp. You can't
see if it's straight.
You can't. It is so hard to do. And you get one chance to do it. And if you screw up, find a new part.
That's what people don't get.
There's a risk to it. So
yeah, it's just doing that stuff. All those, the machine parts come pretty clean, but they still got sharp edges and stuff like that. That all needs to be hand finished.
Yep.
It's a lot of work.
I try on the aluminum Mauser. Now, another reason why I did the aluminum was that I throw them in my roto, and they get deburred, and then I send them to anodizing. So when you buy it, it's black. You know, for the novice builder who wants something that's a pretty accurate replica, you've got that as black. You can almost screw some of the parts on there and be done with it. You don't have to paint it.
Yeah.
Now, the steel one, I kind of expect when someone buys that, they know what they're doing a little bit. You got to expect to have to deburr a few things, if you know, or do some little bit of sanding and prep work to it, because especially if you're getting ready to blue it, you need to make sure that it's all the way you want it before you start bluing it.
Yeah, and steel, you can't just take like 320 grit and expect it to do much. You know, you need a jeweler's file. You need to sit there with jeweler files and find files and do file work.
I would throwing this thing in a roto. The problem with it is this stuff, the steel wants to start rusting as soon as it comes off the machine.
Yeah.
It literally, if I threw it in the roto over there, it'd be a mess. So I've got this paper, I wrap them in almost immediately to get them out of the way. But yeah, you definitely need to do some Scotch Brite, and if you've got some edges you want off of it, you know, you do a little prep work. It doesn't take long, it's easy, you know, but you know, another thing is bluing. We need to do a whole series about bluing one day.
Oh yeah.
I'm so scared of that, you know.
It's just follow the instructions pretty much.
Pretty much, but I'm wondering if people read, you know, stop 5 seconds and read something, you know.
But yeah, so that's the first movie. That's it. There's the two right there.
Yeah.
And Hans, the main one, gets all the action pretty much. Yep. But then in the second movie, man, you got a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot in terms of what was on set and what was used and what was left over, but what you actually see is the Hoth.
Yep.
And then the hero ones, which are the Han and the Luke, are nearly identical. There are little differences, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same thing.
The Bespins.
Yep. And those are the ones that get all the screen time and action.
Yeah.
The cast ones were in holsters, but anything that got pulled out and used was one of these real ones.
Yeah.
And Han used both to shoot at Vader. Have you ever seen there's some footage of the behind the scenes footage where, and I imagine because of these mounts, you could only load 1 or 2 blank rounds in there.
Right.
Because the follower wouldn't go down far enough because of the big nut inside. Right. But anyway, so the behind the scenes footage is of him firing one. You see someone off frame, pull it out, hand him another one. He fires another round, and then you see the slide lock back, and then he drops that. And there's like a blanket or something underneath, and he drops it, but it leaves his hand there. And then it cuts to, that's how Vader pulls it out of his hand.
Right, that's how he pulls it away.
And then they use the cast ones and the MGCs to chuck over to David Prowse, who was sitting there catching one, and he would drop one, catch another one, and drop one and catch it. So they did multiple takes. So, but you see him use both of them. But he only fires like 1 blank per one. So, and that could just been a limitation because of the mount, how the mount was put in.
Yeah, I actually like those. I love the M19 scopes.
Yeah, it's cool. It's more compact. It's just a different look. But that's the main screen time. That's the one that got all the screen time and all the actual shooting, is the two ones that are almost identical.
Yep.
And the Hoth had a little screen time. It shot an imaginary blaster bolt at the probe droid, but that was it.
Yep. And
the Dagobah, I think that's just only when Luke comes out of the water, because they didn't want to use a real steel thing for him pulling it out of the water. So he just pulls it out of his holster after coming out of the water.
Yeah. Well, it'll rust it up quick because I have to keep oil on mine. It wants to still rust. And
Yeah, mine's sitting in a humidity controlled safe, and they still, I have to keep oil on them.
Yeah.
Like any gun. And then the third one, you got pretty much you just got two. You got an MGC Han and you got the stem bridge. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully everybody will start paying more attention to the stem bridge. I'd like to see more of those out there.
Yeah.
At least the awareness.
There was a guy on the RPF who's I can't remember what his screen name was, but at the bottom he had a signature and it said, "Return of the Jedi DL44, the King of Blasters." That's what his tag was always. And he was right. It's the one that got the most kills.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's actually a beautiful prop.
Yeah.
So many of the DL44s, when you really get close to them, they're not nice. They're kind of butchered looking,
Yeah.
They were done so quick, or, took a lot of damage, I guess, from filming too. See if I can find another picture myself here. The one good thing about the aluminum Mauser for basically about $600 or $700, you can have the entire blaster, whichever one it is, all the greeblies on it. It's already black. It's already got stained walnut grips on it. It's pretty much ready to stick in a holster or put up on a wall.
Yeah.
Now there is stuff, don't get me wrong, there's a lot you could do to these things if you want to really get into painting and detailing them. You can take them to the next step, but that gives you a little bit more value to get into those to start with, I think, until you maybe learn a little more about them. And then the steel ones, of course, you're getting up into, I'm having to look up the prices here. I can't remember all of them. Basically, you've got a base model starting out at about $575, just for the base model. You've got to get the rest of the stuff for it. So you're going to end up with $700 to $800, doing it all. So it's a little more money, but the accuracy, bluing the things is, makes them look a lot better.
Oh yeah. And basically an MGC, a good shape MGC, a correct one, is going to be that or more. So it doesn't make sense to even do that unless you're doing a specific MGC one, like the ones we talked about. Then, if you're doing one of the hero ones, they're all real Mausers anyway. So it doesn't make sense to do it from an MGC.
Yeah. Well, MCCs, they're still cool to find if you can.
Yeah. If you can.
If you can. But, that's going to be tough.
Yeah. But I wouldn't sell one of these very cheap because I'll never get it again.
I was sitting there watching my phone and I can already see the text messages. How much for the MGC?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know. I got to see if I've got the parts, because.
Is this live? Are you doing this live?
Well, no, I'm just talking about, I guess people are, hold on, let me see if I can get to it here.
Oh, they must have seen it before or heard about it.
Or something. Yeah. Cause I just saw a message from that. I'd talked about it. I'd sent out a little, a picture or whatever on my Instagram the other day too.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Because I was gathering together. You can't see it on the screen here, but I've got a box of parts here from the MGCs and Denix and stuff. And there's a lot of scavenger guys. So
yeah. There is one blaster we have neglected to address and talk about, and no one has made a replica of it. There's a pretty good reason why. Let me share my screen again, and then we'll talk about it. This one nobody talks about. This one right here.
The kludge.
The Bizarro.
Yeah.
the Bizarro blaster. It's from a deleted scene. But what's really interesting about this, let me bring it into Photoshop so I can get it bigger here. What's really interesting about this is that the Hensoldt Wetzler 3X 3 power scope from A New Hope with the cradle from A New Hope is here with the bull barrel upper and probably the lower, but with some weird extension, which we know screwed in because the bull barrel was threaded. It was some funky, weird flash hider thing. And this is a deleted scene that they shot in England. And if Harrison Ford wanted a blank to react with, that makes all the sense in the world why Bapty would have to provide this again, but they didn't have it in that configuration. So they just threw it together in some weird, it all makes sense.
Unfortunately, yeah, it looks terrible actually, but it's a piece of history. You know?
But
no one's ever asked for it. No one's ever asked me for it.
There's just not enough detail on it. I'm sure there's a picture of it someplace. There has to be.
Not that I've ever seen.
There's like one photo that I've ever seen. It was a still, not a screen capture, but it's like a still photo of it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't very good. It was like blurry,
Well, I think now we've probably covered and made replicas of just about everything, or somebody has, but that one. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that one.
Nope. Maybe this video will get enough people intrigued.
Yeah, somebody will start researching it, or going, hey, I bought this at an auction or something, or find it somewhere. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's it. But that was another real one. At least I'm pretty sure it was, because it matches all the rest of the stuff.
So that scene that was deleted, that would have been after they're fighting outside of the bunker, right?
I think that's when, if I remember right, it's when they first go into the bunker. Gotcha. Before they get captured.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that goes in the timeline. I haven't seen it in context with the rest of it in quite a while, so I don't know.
Go back and watch that just to see. I guess if it's before or after or whatever, because it's kind of weird.
I don't know, but there it is. Yeah, I think we covered them all.
Yeah, that's a good start. That'll help some people. That's why we're doing it, so everybody can kind of learn and see what's going on.
What's the price point on the aluminum Mausers?
Let's see here. Get past the Denix. Most of those are around the, let's see, they're $650, $699.
That's with all the stuff.
That's everything. I mean, you're getting all the greeblies are on it, all the scope mounts, flash hiders. You got the real grips, and keep in mind the aluminum one functions and has the same parts that the steel one has. They're just aluminum, obviously. And some of the models you like this too, Scott, where I leave the hammer.
Yeah.
So it's like the real one.
Yeah. Because the ones that are fully anodized are good MGC alternatives.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Because the MGCs, everything is black on them. That's just how they come. They're just all black. The sights weren't bright. The hammers weren't bright. The bolts weren't bright.
Yeah.
Which is, those would be a perfect MGC alternative.
They're a lot lighter than, I think they're actually lighter than the MGC by a good bit, but they're definitely a lot lighter than carried around the steel one. Probably if you go through the trouble of doing your steel one, it looked good in the holster, but that's probably a display model, because it's going to be pretty tough to troop with that one all day long.
Yeah. And I like the weight of the real ones, but only because I'm just playing around with it at home.
Yeah.
Right. The steel, it's good if you're just farting around, but if you were to troop with it, for one, it looks too real. That's not a good idea. But two, I wore my stormtrooper sand trooper outfit for Halloween once, and all I had was my actual sterling full steel thing.
Right.
Man, I tell you what, after about 15-20 minutes of holding that, you're just like, where can I put this down? It is it's too much.
Yeah. Well, it's like going hunting or being in the military. That's why they have you're holding your weapon all the time.
Yeah.
You got to get used to it. They get heavy fast.
Yeah, but for people who troop, get the lightest one you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're probably better off to put like a orange plug in the barrel too if you're going out in public.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. And I was looking for a Denix one here. I usually leave that little orange plug in the Denix ones I sell anyway. I don't even bother taking it out. But
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely gotta be aware of not just walking around in public with a blaster. It might get missing.
Yeah, they're just everybody out there be smart. They look like a fantasy weapon to you and I, but to the general public, it looks like a real gun. So don't take it to a movie theater.
Yeah, not everybody's a nerd.
Don't go and wave it around, Yeah, I shouldn't have to say that, but I know of a few people who have done such things. So just leave it at home.
Pretty much, yeah. It'll get stolen or loose pieces off of it. So
Yeah. But anyway, I think we covered all of them. Yeah.
I do too. If anybody has any questions, Scott and me, I'm sure we'll put our website addresses and so you can ask questions. I'm going to put this up on our YouTube channel, and I'm sure you've got a YouTube.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up on YouTube too. It'll more than likely be exactly the same unless you're gonna edit in some close-ups and stuff while we're talking about it. But
well, John over there, if it works out, but I think it's going pretty smooth, so
yeah, I don't even know how long it is, but
we've been on it for a while. So
I'll have to edit out the beginning of us just shooting the breeze.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well,
all
man,
right. This is a good time to end it then. Go ahead and get on with your day. It's like 11:30 for you almost.
Yep.
Cool.
So, hey, thanks for taking the time, Scott, and man, just seeing some of your props there, they look wonderful. If you're not familiar with what he does, he takes and he's very good at accurizing and making things look screen accurate. If you don't know his work, take some time and go to his pages and sites, which he'll put up some stuff too. And Scott, thanks for taking your time and doing this with me, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was educational for me too. So
for sure. I know we got more projects coming up. We got a Leia blaster that it's going to need a lot of talking about.
Man, I am, that is a really cool, actual pistol to start with, the prop. And I love that. Some of these things are just not cool, props, they're just, they're not real. That thing actually, was a real pistol made in the USSR. It's actually a really cool mechanism.
Yeah.
And the more I keep taking pieces apart of it and scanning them and copying them, I mean, it's going to be just as intricate and just as detailed as this Mauser has been. And it's going to be a really cool project. So I hope to have that done somewhere around maybe first of the year, 2022, January, February, somewhere in there. So
cool. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, man, Chris,
all right,
signing off here for Blaster Factory. And
yep, me too. See you guys later.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.